Hello and welcome to Mekelle Foresight. This is Mekelle, producer and host of the show. My guest today is a prominent fighter for the Tigrayan cause. Tigrayans know her by the name Kasech Rayaweiti. She is an Australian, born and raised in Australia. She will tell us about her story, how she is connected to Tigray and what drives her to support their cause. Kasech Rayaweiti, welcome to Mekelle Foresight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I know your love for Tigray is tattooed to your heart. I also saw in some of your videos that you have a tattoo on your arm connected to Tigray. Maybe we can start with that. Would you show it to our audience?
Are we able to see my
Good,
Tigray?
yeah, I can see. Yeah. It says Tigrai. Yeah.
So tell us, when did you get this tattoo and why?
It's actually funny. I planned the tattoo about 2 years ago and I never got it done. I had told my friends I was going to get it done, my friends in Mekelle, that it was going to get done, and I just had kept putting it off. And then after the war started, I just said, no, that's it. I take a stand with these people, and I have been connected to this community for nearly 10 years. I have 2 children that are both half myself and half their father from Tigray. And I just thought, no, if I really truly stand and believe that I belong with these people and my heart is with them, at least the minor sacrifice I can do is to show it on my skin. So that was that's when it happened. It happened, I think it's about November 14, 2020 that I got it finally done and imprinted, and I decided that no, the people of Tigray are going to stay with me forever in my heart, and I'm not ashamed to show that on my skin. And obviously there's differences between my skin and the people of Tigray, but this is my way of being able to show that my respect and heart is always with the people.
So is it this blood factor that is pulling you?
Yes and no, I don't think so. Yes, I would say there's definitely an element of the fact that my children are from there, and their family is still there. I have many friends in the community, knowing their family is all still there. It's also just the inner sense of justice and freedom, people fighting for their freedom, that it does pull me. It always has. I mean, I might see a movie where a young boy has been bullied and he's come up through and beaten himself against the oppressors, and I'll cry. So I think that's a bit of my personality, is to have that fight for freedom, and that right to have your justice prevailed, and to have you be able to live in your own sovereignty, as whether it's an individual or as a society. So being able to maintain your identity is really important to me. So that, I think, is the personal part, but where it comes from on the deep inside. But also my love for Tigray started when I went to Tigray first. It didn't just start there. I've always had a connection to Tigray because I grew up in the early 90s, and in Australia we had a lot of drives for fundraising for the 40-hour famine. It was called the 40-hour famine, and that was based on that. I think that commenced during the famine in the 80s. So the organization World Vision was always putting these pictures of Tigray famine victims all over their screens. And so it's always been in my mind that I wanted to go to Africa. At that time, I was young. I didn't know where. I traveled to South Africa, to Kenya, and then eventually I got to Ethiopia and to Tigray in, I think, 2012. And so as soon as I got to Tigray, I just went, yeah, this is the place that I've been looking for. This is where I've been drawn to. And when I got there, I was completely humbled, overwhelmed, I think, by just the civility and the kindness and the humility in the people. Nobody, I like I said, I traveled in other parts of Africa before. Nowhere in the world had I felt as safe in Tigray as I did. I felt so safe in Tigray. The rest of Ethiopia, no, not necessarily. I just was so connected to the people just on a person to person level, because I just felt I felt like this was humanity. Like this is how humans are supposed to be living. You know, going to church or to the mosque and actually devoting and praying and, you know, paying respect to God and living a life where you are caring for one another. It really stood out to me, and it just stayed forever. So when I returned, I was with my children's father, and the kids were born, and I just thought I have to do everything I can to still be part of this community. I don't want to lose it, and I don't want to ever lose that connection to the people.
Yeah, this is very good. Yeah, and that's how it should be. That the connection, the humanity. But why do you think you felt safe in Tigray? What was there that made you to be safe in Tigray?
In all honesty, it was the people. You know, I at the time I didn't know about politics or identity and all, you know, the formation of Ethiopia. All that has come afterwards. But it was the people. You walk around the streets and people are smiling at you. They're willing to help you. You know, in other parts of the world, people are shut off. They don't connect. They don't say hello to one another on the street. Where I grew up in country Australia, it was much like that. You know, you walk down the street, you say hello to someone, you smile at them, and there's a sense of community and hospitality. And I felt the exact same way in Tigray. I never felt like anybody wanted to try and cheat me or take my money. You know, in Addis Ababa, I'll walk into a hotel and, you know, it might be 400 birr for a local, but for me it's 1400. So I never felt that. Never happened in Tigray. I felt like people were never trying to take advantage, but also they were more than happy and willing to offer up the little that they had for me to be comfortable. You know, walking into someone's house and they've made a whole big dish of food, or having coffee ceremony. And I think for some people they might think, oh, it's a bit onerous, or, you know, oh, we have to sit here for all these hours. But for me, I just felt it's such a blessing that I'm invited and I'm treated just like I'm someone from there. I never felt like an outsider. So I think that's what made me feel safe. I was never treated any differently than, and I imagine that people from other parts of Ethiopia would be treated the exact same way. It was just such a humbling experience.
And that regardless of the language barrier, the cultural barrier, you know, I think there's something that speaks to a higher truth, a higher moral.
Definitely. I will definitely say that. And I touched on it lightly before, like the religious elements. Growing up in a society where religion has not been at the forefront of how we are raised, but it is always there in the background. My family raised me very, very Catholic. I didn't go to church all the time, but there was always that element of paying thanks and gratitude and connecting to a higher being. So I think that just kind of emanates throughout the Tigray society, and it's something that is missing here. So I guess when I got to Tigray, it's something that, you know, I found that it was, I often come back and just say, you don't understand. People don't understand just how amazing this place is. And I think a lot of it has to do with those still deep-rooted value systems and morals, and having the time to pause and reflect and pay thanks to God, and to, you know, I don't want to make the whole thing about church, but or, you know, practicing Islam, but I think it's just the people have that moment to actually be grateful for the blessings that we do have amongst all the hardship that they were facing even back then.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This works both ways. Tigrayans who have seen your struggles for the Tigray cause are also amazed by your total devotion and energy in voicing the plight of the people from the beginning of the ongoing war. What fuels this energy in you?
I don't know. I can't say more than just my love for the people and my fear for them. I trust me. I try and ask myself all the time, and I say, oh, you know, just why is this me? Why am I doing this? But I don't know. I think I see people suffering, people that I love, people that I have a connection to, and I think if I have something to say that could contribute to, the world knowing the truth about what's going on, or an idea that might help the society progress further, but maintain the beauty and the elegance of the Tigrayan community. I don't know, I just feel driven to be able to express it. So, and with a hope that it lands on the right person's ears at one time, and there's some tiny little bit of help that can be given. But I'm not ever sure that I've ever done enough. So I guess that could keep pushing me as well, because I don't, it's hard to know what to do in these kinds of times.
Okay, before I move to the other questions, I will let you speak any word or words or a phrases in Tigrinya. What would you like to say in Tigrinya directly to the audience?
I did have a message that I recorded in Tigrinya, and I'm so sorry because I can't remember it all. I ended it with the one word I can remember, and that was Yefwetekum. I love you all, and Salam Daka Ade. I guess that's I don't know. I don't know enough Tigrinya. There was a girl who was just online the other day, and she spoke fluent Tigrinya, and my jealousy, the worst side of me, came out. Salam Daka Tigray, and Efwetekum. I'm so sorry. I love you all. Is that
I think I can say you are the face of the Tigrayan diaspora in Australia. Tell me some of the major activities the Tigrayan diaspora in Australia have undertaken and what they have been able to achieve so far.
I wouldn't say that I'm the face of the Tigray diaspora, because there's been so many people that have done much more than me, campaigning to the government and going out and protesting. I've written letters personally to senators and things, but I haven't heard much response. But the team that is here, they have been doing a great job, reaching out to our government and trying to push for them to change or to acknowledge what's going on. Unfortunately, the Australian government has been very sleepy and unconcerned, just concerned, I guess, as every other statement of the international community has said. But the team here have been doing quite a lot. They have had fundraising events nearly every 2 or 3 months to be able to send money, when the borders open. I'm sure some of their programs are getting some funds in. So there's been many groups that have been set up doing this kind of work to try and raise funds to be able to help. There are advocacy groups. There are people organising protests. There are people having community events to, encourage one another. I would say, I'm definitely not the face. So I'm not going to take that away from the hardworking people of Australia. For me, I just try my best to voice what I can do and get the messages through to the society. And personally, I just think of plans and ways that I can give back once we're able to actually get back to Tigray. So hopefully, we'll be able to come back in soon and we'll be able to help rebuild from this devastation.
How do you get your information from Tigray, particularly during the early months of the war, when all the atrocities were being conducted in the dark? And what methods and platforms do you use to advocate for the Tigrayan cause?
I got most of my information from TMH, I guess, when most people were. From I think it's Dim Sawayani was able to get some information out. So I would just get what I could, and luckily on Facebook, a lot of the information will come through and it gets translated if it's been written in Amharic. So anything that was written in Amharic, I was able to get translated. But also I have friends that I work with that are from Tigray. So I would just run into their office. What's this say? What's that say? What's this say? And people just translating for me as best that I can. And I follow a huge amount of other activists, people that are living in Addis Ababa, often for it depends on, what you call it. I try to look at networks from all around Ethiopia, not just Tigray. Like I do try and look at what's happening in Oromia, what's happening in the Somali region. I try to get a holistic perspective of, the whole crisis. And I guess it's just from the information that we are all able to get out through Facebook. Twitter campaigns were set up afterwards, and that's been a great source of information as well. But yeah, the early days, it was just the media that was able to cover it.
You had started your own show called Tales from the Hall. Is that still on?
No, I stopped. I started it, and I just realized it's probably not the best timing. But the idea behind the show was to hear tales from literally the Horn of Africa. I wanted to be able to showcase and contribute to a society that is healing in the future, which is obviously not happening right now. But I don't believe in ever bringing oneself down to a point of complete and total emotional being distraught. So, for me, it's important to continue on, keep moving and hearing things so that I can heal. But then I was hoping that with the show, if you hear how other people have been living, that maybe some barriers can be broken down between societies and misconceptions can be broken down. Especially one of the things that really hit me a long time ago was a family friend here saying, Mekelle is lined with gold-lined streets. The Wayani was stealing all this money, and the people of Tigray, they're just, full of worky, and they have everything. And I just remembered going to Tigray and seeing that, it was nothing like that. It was probably underdeveloped compared to the rest of the country that I'd seen. So it was these kinds of misconceptions that I wanted to be able to abridge with the show. And like I said, I just felt like maybe it wasn't the right timing because a lot of people were still in very, very deep grief, and the way I deal with grief may not be the same as everybody else. So I decided to not continue.
Yeah, I found that very interesting, and I think that is what we are lacking. A narrative that shows the whole perspective and creates the connection in the stories and cultures of all peoples. That's what's needed currently. Your conversation with Daniel from the Iro people, Talile and Professor Tsakeh Ararsa from Oromia, Fatawi from Tigray. These are some of the examples that I was able to watch on your show. Such kind of intercultural conversation is actually long overdue and is something that can help us strengthen the social fabric that's now in tatters.
Well, I will continue on, or perhaps we can work together. I have one more interview that I did, and it was from a lady from Eritrea, and it broke my heart so hard that I have not been able to review it to air it. So I'm hoping that if the public says that this is the right time, I'll definitely continue on. I still have a big long list of people that I wanted to interview and to try and help heal those wounds that have been caused in the past by misconceptions.
What challenge have you been facing in the course of your activism?
I'm not sure if I'm an activist. I don't know. It's a very honored title. I think in my mind, I just analyze, and I like I said earlier, if I have an idea, I say it. If I think something, I say it. If I think it could contribute. So I'm not sure if it aligns, but speaking out and actually speaking against the regime in Addis Ababa, or the Prosperity Party, or as I call them, the PP cult and the Higdef Mafia. I gave them all little nicknames because, I don't think they deserve the respect of their actual titles because of the atrocities that they committing. Anyway, speaking out against them has come with hardship. Personal friendships have disintegrated. Areas even in my personal life where I will not go to without knowing that somebody knows that I'm there. For example, there's a suburb here that has a lot of Ethiopian. Unfortunately, a lot of Tigrayans hang out there too, and that's where the restaurants are. But there are certain restaurants that I will not go to now, and there are streets that I will not walk in, just because I know what they're saying to me, and I am quite worried that anybody with any emotions towards against what I'm saying will react. Online, I think most of the abuse that I've been given has always been online. So it's very easy to block them and to see that the person on the other side is obviously somebody who's got an opinion, but they may not have that right. So personally, I just ignore a lot of it. When it comes to the hardships of not knowing where my family is or, where my friends' families are, I guess I just try and put on a braver face, because I know that it's not my mother and it's not my sister that's there. So I don't really have the luxury of crying, is how I put it. Not even just do I not have the luxury, but I also don't think that right now pulling myself down into an emotional, spiral is going to help anything. And so I would prefer to try and, uplift my own self and uplift other people and encourage people to, stay as strong and brave and connected to those things, like I said, that makes Tigray so beautiful. Having some kind of spiritual connection does help pull yourself up, out of this and builds resilience. So I guess, yeah, with the hardships that have happened, it's just really, it's simple when it's online, because you can block things and you can avoid things. And I just always try to remember how, and I always am so grateful that, my safety's here, and the fairness is actually probably what hurts the most, that, people have to suffer whilst I'm sitting here in safety.
So what do you think should be done to get the international community listen to and understand the voice of Tigrayans who are going through unimaginable suffering?
This has been a really difficult time to learn about the actual realities of world politics, economies, and international law. I've gone and looked into it. I have ideas that I bring forward, but unfortunately, from what I see, international law is just paper. If the people in charge or implementing that international law, even in Ethiopia, are refusing to do it. And I think that's one thing that's been really shocking to me, is that, a dictator, a murderer, a genocider, a fascist can come in and, without Ethiopia being signed to certain, conventions in the International Criminal Court, especially, which I've come across, there's not much that these international laws can actually do. And I think it's been a real eye-opener for me personally to realize that, we think that the West, I'm so sorry. We think that the West is above us, and they're able to protect and to do everything, and that they say that they're superpowers. And it's really jilted my opinion of them, because if they were able to do this, they would just be sending aid to Tigray right now. They would not be, sympathizing or, entertaining the jargon and the propaganda that comes out of, head office in Arat Kilo. So I think for me that first part was really difficult to understand, but that pulls onto then what can be done and what can we do. And I don't have the answers to that anymore, because at the very beginning I had thought, well, if they know what's going on, they're going to stop it, or they're going to see our side of the story. And unfortunately, when you step back and you realize, they see every side of the story, and a few words or a few good mining contracts, or a telecommunications deal with a foreign company, stops a government from speaking out against the atrocities. It's more heartbreaking. So the answer is, I don't know, apart from diplomacy from the government in Tigray, and them working and being able to communicate with governments from all different sectors and all different backgrounds. There's a lot of focus on the West and Europe and things, but in my personal belief, it's and there's a lot of issues in NATO and in the UN Security Council, blocking resolutions and this and that. And I think I don't have any other answers, but you just have to try to work with the other people that, may have blocked one resolution, but may help us get another one through. So, Russia and China approaching everybody from all different backgrounds. I often kind of reflect and go, okay, what would Meles Zenawi have done? Would he have just sided with one side, or would he have asked all of them to come in and use their strengths that they can to make change? And I think it takes that kind of holistic but inclusive approach to diplomacy, this is just my opinion, but to be able to try and sway them to see our side, and not antagonizing against Russia and China for the mistakes they've made in their UN Security Council rulings, or look again what they have said, like specifically deeper what was said and why they ruled against certain measures. It also worries me when I read the rhetoric that comes out of Western countries, the statements and the callings of the TPLF's I don't know, terrorism, or they don't call it that, but there still seems to be some kind of misconception that this was Tigray's fault. That there still seems to be some misconception that Tigray was antagonizing this war, when we know that the lands had been surrounded, and that the first shots came from the Eritrean border, essentially. So I think a lot of that misconception is still there, and I don't know if they're ever going to believe it, because, like I said, they hear all sides and they have to sit and play on the fence. Play on the fence? Sit on the fence. That's the saying that we use in English. And it's awful, and it's horrible, and it's been really, really heartbreaking to see that, law and humanitarian crisis is just a word, really, to the international community. And I think the best we can do, the best that the communities can do, is try and work with everybody to get whatever benefits we can get through, especially, the humanitarian aid, the food, the medicine, through to the people. And unfortunately, I don't see that they're going to just stop Abiy, because, like I said, there's a lot of financial benefits to foreign companies that he's opened up those channels for these foreign companies to be able to come, and then they don't want to antagonize him and have their assets hurt. So my answer is lifting, as I think you had hoped, but I don't know anymore what to do, because they know what's going on, and the rulings don't change.
What keeps you going in the face of all these challenges?
Lately, to be honest, my campaign has ceased a lot. When I realized this, I thought, I don't know what I can do anymore. So what just keeps me ticking is knowing that one day Tigray will be free. One day Tigray is going to have to rebuild. One day Tigray can have a justice system, a legislation system, a parliamentary system that is suited and designed best for its people. It will have industry, it will have schooling, it will have everything that's best designed for its people. So I guess what keeps me going now is thinking about the future and, documenting my ideas, how I think things could go forward. My profession is like a business analyst kind. I have a lot of skills, but that's one thing, which is business analytics and strategy development. So, I've kind of shifted over to that thinking, how can I help strategize for the future? And, if there's any connections that I make, I just share my ideas, and that's what keeps me going, knowing that, suffering doesn't last forever. It does last forever for those people who have like, internally it does, but they will regrow, and Tigray will rebuild, because Tigray has done this before. And I guess that's what just keeps me growing, is that I know that as much as how horrible things are to be living through it right now, it was lived through earlier, and people did rebuild, and the strength and the spirit to actually pick up, and the resilience is there, and it's in the people, and they will prevail. They will beat this.
I think that's a very cheerful point to end this discussion. As much as we are shaped by the past, we are also propelled forward by the goal we set for ourselves for our future. So thank you so much for your reflections and for sharing your experiences. Dear viewers, we have come to the end of the interview, and thanks for watching.